Victor Osimhen, the Nigerian centre-forward, scoring 20 goals in 27 appearances for his country, having 74 goals and 18 assists for Napoli in 129 appearances. He had 18 goals in 38 games for Lille, earning him the Napoli move in the first place, and has an overall tally of 105 goals in 202 games as a centre-forward or striker across his career, which equates to 1 goal in every 2 games. Perhaps the most obvious thing to point out about Victor Osimhen when speaking about his player archetype is the physical and powerful specimen that he is. Just by looking at this picture, you can tell the body type and frame that Victor Osimhen has. He's a 6'1" footballer. He has longer legs though compared to his upper body ratio, and he has a very powerful leap to go with that long stride that he has, making him a very powerful, being the key word, footballer. An achievement that highlights this amazing power and superb leap that Victor Osimhen possesses is when he beat Ronaldo's highest jump to score a Serie A goal record. But what is it about Victor Osimhen's profile that makes him so valuable in today's market? One of the biggest positives when you have a striker like Victor Osimhen is the fact that he's such a physical unit that he forces gravity and creates space for others. What I mean by forcing gravity is the amount of players that are pulled towards him because of the sheer threat that they believe he opposes the team, just because he's so willing to occupy multiple players at once and he's so hard to deal with due to that physicality. Other players are then left in space and he creates that gravity towards himself, drawing lots of players towards him, creating space for others. This box dominance is also shown with his 7.09 box touches per 90, which ranks in the top 6% amongst the top 5 leagues. Osimhen is a high volume shooter, taking about 3.74 shots per game, which ranks in the top 10% amongst the top 5 leagues, and also taking 1.55 shots on target per 90, ranking in the top 11% in the top 5 leagues. In my opinion, Osimhen's most valuable asset is this ridiculous leap that he has on him. Just look at some of these pictures and how high he is getting to win some of these headers in the box. These images show a mixture of Osimhen's traits for a goal where he occupies 2 defenders, he slows down his run before making a burst into the box to win the ball in the air between the 2 centre-backs using that devastating leap of his. And here is another example of the same thing, getting between 2 centre-backs and then winning the header. Osimhen is also very good at using his body to protect the ball, getting himself between the ball and the player, just like he is here in this image against Chris Smalling. His ability to get ahead of the player and then use his back to guide Smalling off of him and then use that little burst of pace to get away and then also get a shot off. This is how Osimhen uses his body to protect the ball and then manipulate the ball from that position. Another thing to note about Osimhen is he has deceptively good long passing technique. He often finds himself in these areas where he wins the ball, brings it down, and he can often try and find one of his teammates out on the wing, making a run in behind for him then to attack the box. And perhaps one of the most valuable things for a striker these days is the fact that in the last 3 seasons, he has consistently overperformed his XG, scoring more goals than he is predicted to. Albeit in the 2 seasons before that, he didn't. But you can see the improvement as he's gone on in his career. He's getting better. Of course, this season has gone down again a little bit, but he's showing that he can become a striker that consistently performs to or above his XG, which is invaluable. To go over a few of Osimhen's weaknesses, one thing is that he has quite low touch involvement. So similarly to Haaland in the Premier League, he often averages about 20 to 30 touches per game. So it's not the highest in terms of coming in and linking up play, getting on the ball and really wanting to get involved. But he is more wanting to be involved when it matters in the opposition third. He isn't as technically refined as some strikers that you see nowadays, so there is points where he will look a little bit out of control, some would say, but he relies a lot more on his change of speed and his change of stride to get past players, opposed to little intricate touches to help himself manipulate the ball. He's still got sporadic bits of excellence with his quality, as we've seen in sometimes this season with tight ball control in the penalty area, but there is also times where it doesn't look as controlled, but this can be misconstrued for him not having the technical ability which he actually does possess. Of course, a massive issue when you're spending this sort of money is, and these two kind of go hand in hand, is the price tag that you would be paying, which is probably over around 100 million, but also the injury record that comes with Victor Osimhen, which is a worry when you're spending this amount of money on a player that you want to instantly impact your team, scoring you lots of goals and being the focal point of a challenging team. By placing a handful striker through the middle for Chelsea, like Victor Osimhen, you allow yourself to stretch the opposition team and pin the opposition back by one striker, such as Victor Osimhen, holding and pinning two centre-backs just due to how worried they are about his threat. This, of course, creates a lot of space between the lines for the likes of Nkunku and Palmer to get on the ball if teams press high up and the opposition fall off defensively, creating that big split between the defensive line and the midfield line. Then you have the threat in behind. If teams then start to press higher up the pitch and they start to go man-to-man, Osimhen can then offer that threat in behind. This is something that the likes of De Zerbi do a lot, where they try and bait the whole press in and then go direct over the top into those threatening players in behind. Osimhen is perfect for that, much like Erling Haaland is for Manchester City. He can pin defenders, he can go 1v1, he can beat them in a foot race, and he can bully them to win the ball and find himself in positions where he can make something happen out of nothing. Then you have Victor Osimhen's threat from sustained pressure from crosses. So when the team is fully pushed up the pitch and the other team has retreated into their block, you then find positions where you can get the wingers into wide areas to put the ball into the box. Osimhen is so good at dominating and being a box-dominant striker that he can find himself, pin one of the defenders. He can make smart runs to make himself available for crosses, and he is a big threat against low block teams when you can up the crossing volume, get more crosses into the box and give him more chances to attack that ball. This is also the case for half-space crosses. As you can see with the side of Mudryk and Nkunku, those players would shift over to that side to try and trap them against the sideline. If you can then get that ball back into the player like Enzo, he's going to find himself in great positions to make those half-space crosses, which we spoke about earlier, that Osimhen is so good at getting on the end of, and Kvaratskhelia was making so many of those balls to Osimhen for Napoli. This would be the same from the right-hand side as well for Cole Palmer, cutting in on his left foot and putting in those in-swinger half-space crosses for Osimhen, and that could be another partnership that would work brilliantly well. And then you have the fact that Osimhen is an extremely hard worker. He will press from the front and he will chase down balls that look like lost causes. He'll make something out of nothing, much like the old strikers for Chelsea, such as Didier Drogba and Diego Costa, where they'll chase down balls and they will just harry defenders for 90 minutes, making it a nuisance for them and making things happen just through their presence on the pitch and running after balls that most other strikers wouldn't bother to. It's important to point out that I really rate Nicholas Jackson. I think he's a complete forward. I think the things that he lacks is the sort of things that Osimhen can bring in terms of that box presence and that ability to be so dominant in the air when we're playing and we're against a low block and we need to put crosses into the box. That's something Osimhen can bring. I do think Jackson has many strings to his bow, and I think he's going to be a very useful player, whether he's playing off the left or as a striker. When Osimhen isn't available, if he's not fit, Jackson then gets to lead the line. Can he prove himself? Can they work together as a two? There's many different scenarios where I could see them both having great futures at Chelsea. I rate Jackson very highly. I think he's got the abilities to be a complete forward with such an elite skill set, but he just needs to start finding the back of the net a bit more consistently and find that little bit of composure in front of goal, which Osimhen can bring to the team. He's maybe not the most composed, but he's got that killer instinct in front of goal to see teams off. And we've said a lot of times this season that if it had been Osimhen in Jackson's position, when it just came to that last touch, then you would probably see a lot more goals for Chelsea this campaign. So I'll leave it on this. Could Victor Osimhen be Chelsea's saviour? He's got the stamp of approval from Didier Drogba. Let's see if it happens this summer.